All right. Welcome, everybody. It's so exciting to see all of you here today. We're going to get started in just a moment. We might have a few more people joining. I know we had a lot of registrations for this. I think our AP workshops are always a hot topic. There's always a lot to know with teaching AP anything. And I remember when I was an AP CSP teacher, and especially my first year, and feeling like, wow, there's a lot of stuff here. So we'll give people just a few more seconds to go ahead and join, and we'll get into it very soon. Again, thank you for being here today. Very excited to see all of you. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my chat. If you would like to go ahead and start introducing yourself in chat, I would love to know where you're coming to us from. Anything that you'd like to share would be great. I've really enjoyed just watching where all of our CodeHS teachers are coming to us from this year. I'm seeing that we're having an ever-growing audience. We have so many more teachers than I remember seeing even just a couple of years ago in the US and Canada. And now we're getting an even more international audience. So I'm gonna have to put together a map. We'll have to publish that. All right, a couple more people joining. Again, welcome everybody. All right. So while you're throwing your introductions into chat, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. I recognize a lot of names, but I'm pretty sure there's some of you who may not have met me before. My name's Lori, and I'm a PD specialist here at CodeHS. Prior to working at CodeHS, I was actually in education for about 20 years. I was a district technology coordinator for all 20 of those years, and for 10 of those years, I was also the high school computer science teacher. Got to do some middle school computer science, Girls Who Code stuff, technology clubs, and some elementary computer science as well. And I also was lucky enough to be able to be an AP CS principles teacher too. Never got to do AP CSA, and I was always kind of bummed about that, but loved computer science principles. So very excited to be here with all of you today. And we have an amazing CS teacher and teacher trainer with us today, Sean Raser, and he's going to be taking us through preparing to teach AP CS principles. And let's see, I'm going to take a quick look at chat. Welcome Dan from Wisconsin. It's great to see you. Hi, Carrie. Carrie's from, oh, cool. Moved from New Jersey to Maryland. From middle to high school, excellent, and first time AP teacher. That reminds me too, one of the things that we will be doing this year is we want to bring you more AP workshops and shorter workshops. We know you're going to have a busy school year, so we want to bring you some bite-sized PDs throughout the year and hopefully time them so that you can get some good pacing information and guidance as you go throughout your year in AP. So welcome Michelle, welcome Alex. Another first timer. Welcome Lena. Oops, I'm clicking all over the place. Hey Michael, we've got a couple of Michaels. Welcome. Awesome, we have a good group from all over the US today. It is so great to see all of you. Memphis, Northern California, Michigan, Arkansas, wonderful. Few California teachers, Sean.
There we go.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. I think our group has settled down into a good number right now. So Sean, let's go ahead and head to that next slide. All right, so our first link of the day, if you'd like to grab the slides that we're using, you can go ahead and either scan that QR code right now or browse to codehs.com/apcsp-prep-slides. And that feels like a super long URL. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that and throw it into the chat for us. Give me 1 second. I have a cranky slow computer right at the moment. So Zoom is vexing me. There we go. So you can go ahead and click on that link to grab the slides. If you're not in a place where you can grab those slides right now, no worries. We are going to curate those into the workshop section that we set up today. And I'll send out that link for you when we send out the follow-up for this workshop. All right, let's head to the next slide. Okay, I did throw out there a question parking lot as well today. If you've got some small questions as we go, feel free to throw those into chat. If there are some other questions that I'm not able to answer, or you want to add them to that question parking lot, please do that. That's going to be a great way to make sure I don't miss any questions today. And if we have any questions that I can't answer, that way I can keep track of them and get back to you so I can get any of your questions answered. All right, I'm throwing that link into chat as well. Okay, let's go ahead and head to the next slide. Okay, so we're doing introduction. So look at that, totally ahead of things. If you have not, you just joined us, you can go ahead and toss your intro into chat. Again, we'd just love to know where our teachers are joining us from. So we are creating a pretty amazing community of CS educators. So whatever you'd like to share is super welcome. All right, let's head to the next slide. Okay, so today's agenda, and actually I'm going to breeze through this pretty quick. Sean's just going to bring us a ton of really cool stuff. He's going to talk a little bit about the APCSP courses, some pacing, little information from the College Board, some dates, and a little bit about the create task, because I think it's never too early to start thinking about the create task and to start pacing your class around that as well. And also some of the review material that's available. Okay. Let's head to the next slide. All right, now if we have somebody with us who does not have an account yet, please feel free to go ahead, head out to codehs.com/signup to create an account. Takes just a couple of minutes. If you are creating an account for the first time, I would love it if you would drop me a message. Just go ahead and send me a direct message in chat, and I will make sure to get your account verified today. There's just a quick verification process we go through to make sure we're not giving students teacher accounts. Sean, am I a little bit laggy, or is it okay yet?
It seems okay. Yeah, at least on my end. Yeah.
All right. Looked like my words weren't matching up with my mouth, but I think that's just on my end. So no worries. You won't have to listen to me much longer. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Oh, thank you, Lena. Cool.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah. Oh, no problem.
There we go.
Thank you. So once you have an account, or if you do have an account already, you can go ahead and browse to codehs.com/go/90200 to enroll in the section for today. We're not going to use the section much during our workshop today, but what I added to it, what we added to it was a workshop resources section, so you can access the slides. I'll also go ahead and drop the link to the recording in there as well, but I'll email that to everybody. You'll have a few resources that get added there. I also threw the entire APCSP and JavaScript course in there if you want to check it out if you haven't before. So I thought that might be helpful. Okay, perfect. Just checking out my messages, and I'll take care of that in a little bit. We have one more link for everybody, and this one is a good, well, they're all good links, but this one's going to be important because this is our attendance link. Let me grab it. I'm going to toss this into chat so you don't have to try to type it. This is the link we would like you to click on in order to check in to the workshop, and it allows me to send you a certificate of attendance. So if you could click that, that would be great. It should just take you to a page that says, yeah, you're here, or something a little bit more coherent than that, but you won't have to fill anything out, especially if you're signed into CodeHS. All right. Okay, and with that, I've taken enough time, and I'm going to turn it over to our expert APCSP teacher and amazing teacher trainer, Sean Raser. Sean, take it away.
All right. Thanks so much, Lori. And thank you guys all for being here. I know it's summertime right now, and both of us really appreciate you taking the time to join us. So just a little about myself. I'm based in California. I know we've had a couple people from California here, and I've been teaching computer science for the last 8 years. I'm going into my 9th year, and I've been teaching computer science principles the whole time. We actually started teaching it a couple years before it officially became an AP class. We had the curriculum and just started teaching it in anticipation of it being approved by the College Board. So And I've been using CodeHS for, I believe I'm going into my 6th year using CodeHS. I kind of tried some other curriculums and found CodeHS as I was doing some research, and I've just absolutely loved it since then. My students have raved about it. We've had great results on the AP test, and it's such a comprehensive platform that I've just been very happy with it. So, and I saw in the chat, there's a lot of first-time CSB teachers coming up. So, I'm hoping that this helps out as you're getting ready to jump into this new class, and hopefully it helps get you ready for the year. So, a little bit about CodeHS. So, as you can see on the slide, it's a comprehensive platform for teaching computer science in both middle and high school. The course catalog, we're gonna look at it in a little bit, but it's got I don't know the exact number, but it's tons of courses that start in middle school and go all the way up through 12th grade. Also, CodeHS provides both online and offline professional development. There's tons of workshops just like this that you can attend. They've got some longer sessions that you can attend. They also have in-person professional development as well. And their platform is full of resources and teacher tools that you can use to help you out throughout the year. They do have 2 different versions. There's a free version of CodeHS, which gives you you still have access to all of the curriculum, all the courses in the course catalog, but they also have a pro version, which there is a cost associated with it, but it really gives you a lot of more like classroom management, grading tools, just a lot of things to really simplify your job as a teacher when you're using this. I've used both of them. When I've been fortunate enough to get some money from my district, I've used the pro version. Once COVID started, my district's been a little tighter on the budget. So for the last couple of years, I've been using the free version. But compared to what I found with other curriculums, even the free version, as it's, in my opinion, so comprehensive that I can't even imagine switching to something else. So I've been very happy. And again, my students have given lots of great feedback as well. So, a little more about CodeHS. This is the mission statement from CodeHS. And their mission is to empower all students to meaningfully impact the future. One of the things that I heard from CodeHS, and I truly believe this, is that coding is one of the essential skills that really everyone needs to learn these days. When you think about essential skills, right? It's kind of reading and writing are those things that everyone needs to learn. But in this digital age and this world that we live in, really coding is one of those that, if you don't start learning that, you're going to be left behind. I teach high school, and I've talked to numerous students of mine that they've graduated, they've started interviewing for jobs and internships, and even in fields that aren't related to engineering or computer science. One of the questions that always comes up is, what's your coding background? Do you have any coding experience? And they've told me how grateful they are to have taken some coding classes in high school. So, it's not just a slogan that they throw out there. It's really something that I've seen firsthand is really true in this world. I mentioned that the students have done really well on the AP test. Every year that my students have been taking the AP test, and the College Board has been offering it as an AP class, all my students, they've always had a 95% or higher pass rate on the AP test. So that's a 3 or higher out of 5. This slide was actually from not the school year that just ended. This was from 2020, 2021. I had 101 students take it and 95 passed with a 3 or better. This past year, I had 140 students take it and they still had a 95% pass rate. And I really attribute a lot of that to just how how in-depth and comprehensive this platform is. Not only do they have great content throughout the curriculum, but as you're going to see when we get to it, there's tons of great review material and content to help prepare them for the AP test when it comes around. So when you're using CodeHS, you actually have multiple options for which language or which course you want to teach that meets the AP CSP College Board requirements. So the way that you would find that is, so if you look on the CodeHS main page, so this link right here will take you to the course catalog. And just first of all, this gives you an idea of just how many classes they have. I mean, you can scroll down and just see there's tons and tons of material. But if you want to filter it and look at the AP courses, you've got these tags right here that help you narrow down your selections. And all the way to the right is the AP courses. And so right now, there's 2 AP courses that are College Board approved. There's CS Principles, and then the next course that you would take is called Computer Science A, or CSA for short. And CodeHS offers curriculum for both of those courses. So you can see that there's multiple options for both of these courses. But for Computer Science Principles, you've got 3 different options. You've got a JavaScript, Python, and you also have a cybersecurity course too. And you can also see they've got a whole separate course that's just review material for the AP test. So I've actually used, when I first started using CodeHS, I was using the JavaScript course. And for the last, I believe it's the last 2 years, I switched and started using the Python course. Now, for me, it was just that I have more experience in Python, and I do some supplemental material using Raspberry Pis, which really kind of focus on Python. So I just wanted my students to learn Python, but the courses are, again, they're very similar. They both meet all of the College Board standards, and my students have had success in both. When they move on to CSA is a Java course. I really, to be honest, I didn't find much difference as far as preparing them for the Java course. I had students that went from JavaScript to Java, and the last couple of years going from Python to Java, and they've both done equally well. CSA kind of starts it starts introducing Java kind of right from the beginning. It goes a little faster, but I think that really any CSP course that you pick does equally well preparing them for CSA. I have not done the cybersecurity course yet, but I've heard great things just through some of the networks, other teachers that I network with, or other CodeHS teacher trainers. I've heard great things about that one as well. So really, I think it just comes down to personal preference when it comes to picking one of these. Again, if you have experience in Python, then that may kind of just help you pick which one you want to do. So you can see on this slide, right? This will again take you to the course catalog. So I know I just kind of went through this, but so you can see again 3 courses plus the review material. Just to let you know, the review material kind of focuses on lots of practice quizzes and a practice test to help get them ready for the multiple choice portion of the AP test. I'm gonna get the AP test actually consists of 2 different portions, and when we start talking about the AP requirements, I'm going to talk about both of those. So and really this does a great job of preparing them for both. So I know when I first started teaching CSP, but once I switched to CodeHS, I know one of the things I was really concerned about, or just I wasn't quite sure how to start planning, was the pacing of the course. I think when you get a curriculum like this that has all of the content and, it's broken down into units and lessons, it can be challenging to figure out, how many do you try to go over each class, or how many do you assign each night? And, you'll see is CodeHS, it does a great job of giving you, estimated hours or days, and kind of gives you some guidelines to start helping you with the pacing. So the syllabus with CodeHS, and this is all stuff that in the CodeHS resources, it's all this is all content that you have access to. They break the syllabus down into different units, and each unit is then broken down into different lessons. I'm going to switch over and show you what a course actually looks like. So let me click on this real quick. So I'm just in, this is the sample course that Lori set up. So this is all stuff that you'll be able to see if you sign up for that sample course. So you can see right here, so each course is broken down into what we call units, right? So you can see there's a pretest, and then starting with unit 1, it goes down, and you can see there are 15 units before you get to the performance task and the exam review. Now, within each unit, they're broken down into different lessons. And I'm going to click on another one just because that's a practice project. But you can see here in the data structures unit, for example, we've got about 9 or 10 lessons. And then each lesson is broken down into multiple activities. So, for example, this first lesson, it's called Intro to Lists. And inside this, you've got 6 activities. Now, the structure of each lesson, it's very consistent as you go through the course. The way that I kind of think about this is the CodeHS is kind of like a blended learning style, meaning there's a combination of stuff that the students can do kind of on their own, either in the classroom or at home. And then it's also combined with the kind of in-person teaching that the teacher leads. So each lesson always starts with a video, and the videos aren't very long. They're usually, 3 to 4 minutes or less. There's a couple that might exceed that, but in general, they're just a few minutes or less. After the video, there's always a practice quiz that's kind of a check for understanding. It's a way for the students to kind of see what they retained from the video, or if there were things that they missed, it's a good indicator to maybe rewatch the video. And then after the quiz, there's always an example. Sometimes there's more than one. You can see here, there's a few different examples. Here, there's only one. It just kind of depends on the content for that lesson. And then after the example, there's exercises where the students get to solve their own problems or write their own programs to accomplish a task. And as you look at these other lessons, you can see that they all follow the same structure, right? Video, quiz, examples, exercises. And then sometimes you'll, depending on the content, you might get like a free response. You might get a badge that they earn. There's different things that are kind of sprinkled in there. But again, in general, it's the same structure that they follow. And, as you look at other units in here, like for example, here's functions and parameters. Again, you can see they all follow the same structure. So when you're thinking about pacing for this, it's usually, you want to think about how long is each unit going to take, and then how long is each lesson going to take? So for each unit, this is in the syllabus and in the teacher resources. They give you they break it down by the number of weeks, but also by the number of hours. And this, I found this really helpful because every school has different schedules. If you're at a school where you meet every day, your classes might be shorter. My school's on a block schedule, so we meet every other day, but we have 2-hour classes when we meet. So having it broken down by hours, and then I can look and see how many activities. It really helps give an idea for how long each lesson should take. So what I found is when in my first year teaching CSP, I really used this guide as kind of a way to figure out how to break down the whole year. But after I got done with the first year, I kind of I figured out how accurate it was. If there was a unit that I was able to go through a little faster, or sometimes there were units where I wanted to spend a little more time. It might be a topic that my students needed a little extra practice. I was kind of able to tweak these to really fit the kind of skill level or the experience level that my students had. So, this is something that it really gives you a great starting point, but you may find that you tweak it a little bit to really fit your needs. But going into this, I saw we had a lot of first-time teachers. This is going to be really helpful to help you kind of plan out your year. Now, so getting back to the AP test for this class. So the AP grade that the students receive, it's actually made up of two different tasks that they do. So in the first week or two of May, the students have a multiple choice test that they take, just like most other AP classes have. And it's roughly 70 questions, and it's multiple choice. And that test makes up 70% of their AP score. The other 30% comes from a project that they do, and it's called the create task. So the create performance task. And so that's a programming project that they have to create their own original project. The College Board sets some guidelines. There's certain, I call them complexity requirements that they have to meet. Their program has to include a list. It has to have a function with parameters. It has to have an algorithm that meets certain requirements. And they also have some written questions that they have to respond to. And so that whole task takes roughly 3 weeks, and that makes up the other 30% of the AP score. So when the exams are graded, they take those two tasks, and then that makes up their overall AP score, which is a number 1 through 5. This task, so as a teacher, you're required to give them a minimum of 12 hours of class time. Now, they can work on it outside of class if they need to, but regardless, you have to work in that 12 hours into your class. So, as you're planning your course, you want to think about that ahead of time. Where 12 hours is a lot. It's depending on how your schedule is broken down, it can be about 3 weeks. I know on my block schedule, it equals like exactly 3 weeks. Now, you can fit it in wherever you want. It's up to you. What you want to make sure, though, is that the students have learned all of the skills that are required for them to incorporate in the program. So, I've heard different things from teachers. Sometimes they, depending on how fast they go through it, the students might be ready for it in January, when the second semester starts. For me, I usually do it more towards the end. what you're going to see the dates in a little bit that they're due, but normally it's due like end of April, beginning of May timeframe. And so I try to fit it in, right around the beginning of April. So they finish it right around the time it's due. And the reason for that is I want to make sure that they've already gone through all the course content. And we also do some practice performance tasks. So they've got some experience doing a larger project. They've had time to review the written responses. So, it's really just preference. As you start teaching this more and more, you'll get an idea of where you want to fit it in. But it's totally up to you. Another thing is it doesn't have to be continuous. You may decide to work on 6 hours and then take a little break, have them do the other 6 hours later. So it doesn't have to be, 3 straight weeks of performance tasks. Now, another thing that you want to do is you do want to leave some time to review for the AP test itself, the multiple choice test. Now, again, roughly 2 to 3 weeks. That's a suggestion. You'll find what best fits your needs, as you go through this. But I would recommend when you're first starting out with this course, giving yourself at least 2 weeks gives you plenty of time to do all the content that's in the CodeHS review course. Again, that's made up of practice tests, practice quizzes. In addition to the CodeHS content, the College Board also provides some review material, which it's very similar, but it's different questions. And so it gives them some experience with different wording and just, additional resources to use. So with 2 weeks, you can definitely fit both of those in there. So the course itself, so the CSP, which is created by the College Board and has a set of standards that you have to meet. The way that the College Board breaks this course down is they split it up into what they call the 5 big ideas. So each of those contains a different set of requirements in them that have to be met. And so the way CodeHS meets all of those is by breaking down the course. Again, we saw when we looked at it, right? We saw that there's right here, right? You can see that there's about, again, I think it was 15 units, right? Or modules that meet all of those. But you can see, right, there's 5 big ideas, but 14 modules. So these don't, each unit is not its own big idea. They're kind of sprinkled, through the 14 modules or units, you cover all of those big ideas. But again, each unit is kind of covering different parts. So when you're first looking at the College Board breakdown and you see those 5 big ideas, just keep in mind that it's, each big idea is not its own unit, right? It's covered as you go through it. You might, again, with control structures and functions and parameters, you're covering things from different big ideas. And what I found is that's really how most curriculums cover it. It's, it doesn't have to be sequential. You can really kind of go through it little bits at a time. I know we're about halfway through and I've just kind of been talking the whole time, but I just want to stop for a second and see. I know I've been seeing some chat questions pop up, and I know Lori's been answering them. But are there any questions that have come up so far that anyone has that you want me to answer before we move on?
Sean, I think there was there were several good questions. I've actually been chatting with several people. This has been pretty fun. But one of the questions, and I think this is so important, do you feel like teachers need to have a ton of coding experience? And I apologize if you've already answered that because
No, I haven't.
Chat. Okay, good. We've talked about
You
it a
know,
little bit in chat, and I will say from my perspective, when I taught APCSP, I can't say that I was an expert with JavaScript. I was a Python
yeah,
girl, and my options were JavaScript at that point. So, what do you
yeah.
think?
Um, you know, I really don't think that you do. I mean, I'll be honest. Like it's definitely it's helpful. It's nice to have some of the coding experience, but I know teachers that didn't have any coding experience that have jumped right in. Their school started this course and they needed someone to take it, and they might have been a math teacher, or for whatever reason they jumped in and they've done completely fine. um, it's I would say that if you don't have any experience, it's helpful to maybe go through the units yourself. But CodeHS, they give you all of the solutions. For every exercise, you have access to all the solutions. Um, they've got there's forums that you can post questions in. There's so many resources to help out that it's definitely not needed. And also it's a beginner course. It's meant for students that don't have any experience. So I would say CSA might be a little more challenging if you don't have any experience. But I think with CSP, as long as you can just stay a little bit ahead. And I when I started teaching this, I didn't have any recent experience. When I went to college, I started out as a computer science major, but it's really weird. I didn't like it when I was in college. I didn't think I wanted to become an engineer, or I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So I switched majors halfway through, and I became a math major. And when after I finished my first year teaching, they came to me and asked if I wanted to teach this. And part of it, I was a new teacher. I kind of wanted to stick around, but I wanted to try something new, and I love it now. It's really weird how it comes full circle. But I hadn't programmed for, gosh, at least 10 years at the time that I started, and I didn't know JavaScript. I didn't know Python. Um, it's I think as long as you're willing to put in a little bit of time to just try to stay ahead of the students. Even now, I've got students, there's always going to be some students they're just way ahead of the class. I mean, they know stuff that I have no idea. But what I always tell them is that, if you have a question, even if I'm not able to answer it, I'll try to help you. We'll work together. We'll search online. We'll find other resources, and we'll try to look it up together. And for the most part, that works just fine. You kind of guide them in the right direction. So I would not worry at all if you don't have experience.
Sean, I like that you mentioned that your background. I'll just throw in there before I was a technology coordinator a lifetime ago, I was an ELA teacher with no
Yeah,
experience whatsoever. So you can absolutely do this.
yeah, definitely. I yeah, totally agree.
Hey, Sean, we had one other question. Well, we've got a couple of questions that just came in, but I
Yeah.
think there's one here for the building of the app. So the create task, is the program built into the CodeHS curriculum? And I can tell you that there's definitely practices built in, and I'll let Sean speak to this more, but you can also use the CodeHS platform to actually code the create task. We have the sandbox, and that's a perfect place to code that. Sean, I'll let you speak to what you do with that.
Yeah. So I'm just looking, this is in the JavaScript course, but the Python course is very similar. So any of these right here that say practice PT, those are like larger projects. They're not, you'll see it's not a unit that has multiple lessons. These are projects that have kind of a larger overall problem that requires the students to kind of come up with a solution, and through multiple steps have to solve it. When you get down, let's see. So, there's multiple ones that are built in, but there's also supplemental units that you can add as well. And I know in the supplemental units, there are additional like challenges. Now, I haven't taught the JavaScript in a couple of years. Lori, do you know, is the brick breaker still included in that?
No, now I don't recall about Brick Breaker. I'll go look in the supplemental, and if it is,
Okay.
I'll just maybe throw all of the supplemental into the course as well.
Yeah. I know with the Python, there's a mastermind is one of them, and there's like a almost like a shopping list project. And
yes, that's the one I was thinking of too. Shopping list.
And so they're like sample create tasks, which they're built into the curriculum or through supplemental units that you can add to just add other units to your course. And so I always have the students complete a couple of those to help get them used to larger projects that have to be broken down into smaller steps, which, when they're put together, they solve the problem. And that really helps prepare them for the create task. And again, that's all in CodeHS. You don't have to go anywhere else to get those. What else? Were there any other questions?
There was some questions about, let's see, about quizzes and assessments, if they're included. And I did mention that, yep, we do have quizzes and assessments built in. And then some questions about grading.
Okay.
How about how you might grade?
Yeah. So I've kind of gone through some different methods for grading. Each of these are broken down into, the activities, which are, samples and then exercises. It's the exercises that they're getting the most value out of, right? I mean, to be honest, there could be kids that click through the video, quizzes, examples. And if you're just looking at this overview, right, each icon changes colors based on what they've done. If it's green, that means they went through it. If it's yellow, they started it but didn't finish. And, if you just look at the icons, it's not always giving you a clear picture. It depends on how they did it. With the exercises, CodeHS does have auto graders built in where they have to, in order to complete it, they have to meet certain requirements to show that they solved it. Now, this isn't unique to CodeHS or computer science in general. It's kind of, across the board. But, if you see the exercise green, it doesn't always mean the student did it. They could get an answer from someone else. They could go, online. There's, in this day and age, there's always ways that students can find an answer without actually doing it. So when I first started teaching, I made homework a pretty significant part. I had homework worth like 50%, assessments were like 30, and the final was 20. But what I was finding is that the homework itself just wasn't giving an accurate picture of what the students really understood. So, for example, last year, I think I made homework like 15% of the grade, and then assessments were 85%. And that 85% included the final as well. And, the assessments were, they were problems that either I kind of got from CodeHS or I modeled after CodeHS problems. And I found that really gave me a more accurate idea of what the students knew. If they just clicked through and didn't actually do the homework, they didn't do well on the assessments. And what I found is after the students started to see that they had to actually do the work to do well on the assessments, it kind of, they started to get more motivated to make sure they were actually doing the work. Again, it's one of those things where everyone's going to find different ways to do it. But for me, I found that putting more emphasis on the assessments, and again, I kind of implemented things like I made sure that when students sat next to each other, they had different versions, so they couldn't just look at their neighbor. That kind of really made me have a better idea of where they were at. Now, there are some built-in tools that you can use to really get an idea of if the students are doing their work or not. They've got a history tool where you can go back and actually see the progression of the students doing their work. Like you can tell if it's copy pasted or if they actually developed it. So there's definitely tools that help out with that. But for me, it just came down to, do I want to spend all this time with 140, 150 students? Do I really need to go through every exercise and figure out if they did it or not? It just wasn't the best use of my time. And I found putting more emphasis on the assessments gave me a better idea of where they were at. Were there any other questions?
I was muted. We have one more question, and then we'll let you get back into things. This was asked by a couple of people. Do you do whole group instruction, or do you act more as a facilitator during this course?
That's a great question. So again, I use the term blended learning as kind of the way that I look at this. And so I kind of do a mixture of both. In the beginning, when I first started using this, I would use class time to do instruction, right? To look at sample code, I was really just kind of in the front teaching to the kids. And then I'd say like, okay, go home and do lessons 3, 4, and 5. And then we'd come back and talk about them. What I was finding is that, again, I was finding a lot of students just clicking through them, not really doing them. They weren't, they may not have been as engaged in class. So what I do now, and again, I like the block schedule because I have extended time with them whenever we meet. But I usually spend about, it varies, but about the first half of class doing like direct instruction. And then the second half, I let them start working on the next assignment. Like they get to, they use headphones, or even sometimes they just play it without headphones, but I let them start going through the lessons. And that way I'm there, I walk around, I help out when questions come up, or else I just walk around and kind of see what they're doing. And number one, it kind of forces them to start doing it, instead of just not paying attention. But, if they've got me there or their neighbors there, they can ask someone when they have questions. When they're at home, they may not have someone there, and they might get stuck, and then they might just give up or not feel like they have extra resources to use. So I think, again, at least for me, kind of having the combination of both, being able to do things like debugging strategies, or, I'll put code up that has errors in it, and then they have to try to find the error or guess what the code's going to do, or, they have to write like pseudocode. Different activities like that are great for in person. And then letting them have a decent amount of class time to start the units really helps them get help when they need it, which I think is really valuable. I found that really works for me.
Cool. Thank you so much, Sean.
Yeah. I'm going to jump back in the slides because I know we've got a little bit more. I want to be respectful of your time, but again, if any questions come up, just type them in the chat, and we'll keep answering them as they go along. So I want to give you, the College Board they're the organization that they set the standards. They're the ones that really define what we need to cover in class. And they've updated those a few times since the class first came out as an AP class. So just getting started, you've got to submit your syllabus to the College Board. I believe it's called the audit, where you have to submit what you're doing and get approval. Now, the nice thing is CodeHS has already been approved by the College Board. So when you submit that, you're automatically going to get approved. Now, that doesn't mean you can just use it without submitting it. You still have to do that. If you weren't using a pre-approved curriculum, you'd have to write out your own syllabus and then submit that and get approval before you can do it. So, by having it pre-approved, it really helps cut out that step. Again, you've got the AP Classroom as a College Board resource that has a lot of nice info about dates, but they also have a lot of review material. The testing format changes. When this class first came out, we actually had 2 performance tasks that we had to do. And to be honest, I feel this way, and I know a lot of other teachers. I'm glad they got rid of the other performance task. It was hard. I didn't find it as relevant. It was just a writing task. There was no programming involved. Also, deadlines for the performance task. We're going to go through those and tell you what those are. So again, for the audit process, you've got to, if you go to the College Board website and you have you have to create an account. You can submit it. There's a link to submit your syllabus, and then once you do that, you've got access to all of this. You can create your CSP classes. You have to enroll your students. You get a special class code that your students can use and join your class. This is really important because this is the way your students submit their performance task. They have to go to what's called the digital portfolio and upload each part of their performance task. So video, written responses, and computer code. So that's really important to do. You can do it throughout the year. I usually try to get it done quickly because if you wait till the last minute, you may have students that forget how to log in, they forget their password. It's in my opinion better to do it early. So it's just a kind of an administrative step that you have to go through, but it is required. So when you submit your syllabus, when you go to the College Board, now you can they have a number of syllabuses that have been syllabuses. I'm not sure which one. You have to look, they have a bunch that are endorsed already. So CodeHS, some other organizations, and you just select the one that you're using, which is nice. You can just choose CodeHS's, and then they've got JavaScript, Python, and cybersecurity. And I just saw a question. Lori, do you have the link to the College Board? Okay, so Lori will actually post that in there so you can have the link to the College Board website. Now, 2020 that was when they made some changes. They actually added some topics. They removed some topics. They used to have a focus on binary and hexadecimal. They made some changes so you didn't have to get as involved with that. That's when they got rid of the other performance task. The great thing was CodeHS they just modified the syllabus right when those came out. So, as a teacher, I didn't have to worry about omitting certain things or, adding those things. The endorsed syllabus that they had already, it changed with the new requirements. So that's one of the benefits of using one of these pre-approved providers, is that you don't have to worry about modifying your own and constantly worrying about meeting the requirements. They cover that for you. Oh, let me click again. So here's some of the important dates. So one thing that's changed in the last couple of years is the deadline for students to register is now, it's in November 15th. It used to be later in the year. I think it was around February, but they've now changed that to try to encourage the students to sign up right away. So November 15th, and November 15th, that's when they have to sign up. The create task is due by May 1st by midnight Eastern time. That's important. If you're on the West Coast, I have had some students that they got that confused. So on the West Coast, 8:59. And the AP test itself is on Monday, May 8th. So again, noon local time, 2 hours, multiple choice test. It just important dates to remember. So this is, I mentioned the College Board has some great tools and resources. This is what the AP Classroom website looks like. And, to be honest, I haven't used the daily videos. I have used the practice exams and the quiz questions. Those have been helpful. Every year I always have some students that ask me if I have additional resources. Most of my students, the CodeHS ones, they're plenty and they do really well. But just sometimes I always have those ambitious students that they just want more review. They ask if there's books or other tools. And for those, I point them to AP Classroom. The only one that I actually make a requirement that we do together is the full practice exam. Because, since College Board is administering the exam, I do think it's really helpful to have them do the practice test from College Board. But, these are extra tools if you need them, or, if you're looking for extra ones. Now, you don't need to use the pre-made quizzes. You can go problem by problem. You can create your own quizzes. If you find that there's a topic that they might be struggling with a little bit, like if data structures or lists are something that you see a common theme as people struggling, you can go here and search for the questions that are in that topic and make your own quizzes. So it does give you a lot of flexibility. So it's definitely a nice resource to at least be aware of. So the exam itself, it's 70 questions. They get 2 hours, and that makes up 70% of the grade, right? And you can see the create task is the other 30%. Now the multiple choice, it's all multiple choice, but they do change some of the types of questions. Like, for example, 57 of them are just questions with one answer. There's a couple, right, multi-select. So those are questions that it says select 2 or select 3. I always emphasize this with my students. I always remind them, read the directions carefully, because you will find those students that they just get in the habit of going down, they skip the directions, and they end up missing these because they only selected one answer. So in my opinion, it's always a good reminder to say, hey, read the directions. I've never read them myself, but I have heard that these tend to be more commonly missed than the others because they're just not reading the directions. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but you can see 5 big ideas. The College Board does give you an idea of what percentage of questions are related to those ideas. So you can see algorithms and programming are the main part, impact of computing, right? And then systems and networks, data, creativity are a little smaller, but this gives you a good idea of like what percentage of questions come from which big idea. So I want to talk about the create task just a little bit. You've heard, that they have this performance task and that there's some requirements. So the create task, the students have to create their own original program. Now, when I say original, students have questions about this sometimes. Like they'll ask me, do I have to invent my own game? Like, do I have to come up with something that's never been done before? That they don't have to do that. Like, for example, if a student wants to make a tic-tac-toe game, right? That's obviously not a new game, right? It's an old game. It's already been done. They can do that, but it has to be their own original code that they come up with. They can't just use some other code for tic-tac-toe. So that's important to remind them. Within their code, they have to use a list, and the list, right, you can see here, the list and function cannot be trivial. The list has to serve a purpose. It can't just be a single item list or just a list for the sake of one. It has to be part of the main functionality of the program. They also need to call a procedure or function that uses conditional statements, so that's selection, and they have to give 2 examples of their function being called, and they have to explain how the function behaves differently with different inputs or arguments. Now, if you're new to programming, if you've never programmed before, this stuff might not make sense right now, but as you go through it, this will make a lot more sense. You can always come back and refer to this. So again, if you're brand new, don't stress out if this doesn't make sense, because there are some weird words in here if you're not familiar with them. When they submit it, again, we already mentioned, it goes directly to the digital portfolio. You can practice this, right? The digital portfolio gives you some tools to practice, so they're familiar with the process. It's nice to get them familiar with it so they know what the process is. So, again, AP Classroom, we already kind of mentioned this. It's got lots of different resources, practice problems. So, once you start poking around a little bit, you can really kind of see what the different tools are. Are there any, again, I know I'm running a little late. We're very close. Are there any urgent questions at this moment?
Not seeing anything right now. And what I would recommend at this point, just because we are, about done on time, if you've got questions, you can toss those into the question parking lot as well.
Yeah.
And we can make sure that we circle back and answer those questions for you too.
For sure. So, just a couple tips for getting ready for the performance task. Now, the College Board gives a lot of information about the performance task. Just so you know, they don't try. It's not a surprise what they're grading it on. They give you the rubric, so you know exactly what has to be included. They give you all of the detailed instructions that contains what the code has to include. They give you all the prompts for the written responses, so you know exactly what the students need to write about. They give you a whole list of items as far as like what you can do during the task, what you can't do, what you can do to prepare. So this isn't the only time you're going to see this. They give you a ton of content. So you've got to give a minimum of 12 hours. Again, your program must have input and output. You've got to use a list. You have to have a function with a parameter, sequencing, selection, and iteration. So sequencing is just multiple lines of code in the function. Selection is an if or an if-else statement, and iteration is a loop. If you simplify it like that to the students, it makes a lot more sense. Or if you make it a point to use these words throughout the year, then they start getting used to it. And like we mentioned, they have to give 2 examples of their function being called and explain what's happening and what the output is. Oh, the other thing is the College Board gives you, it's anywhere from 10 to 12 sample performance tasks. You get to see people's responses, the video, the code, and you see like a grading summary. So you see what they did right, what they did wrong. It's a lot of stuff. You get tons of material for it. Students must make a video of their program running. It's a minute or less, so it's very quick. they submit their code, and they've got, again, the written responses. Total, the written responses are 750 or less words. So it's not long, but they've got to be concise and clear. They can't put a lot of fluff in there. It's really got to answer the question, is what they're looking for. So there's kind of sample questions that they can practice. There's, you've got written prompts that they can start getting used to, taking a question and really replying to it. You can use this in your classroom to get them used to writing. It's really a coding class that we're teaching. It's 95% coding, 5%, concepts like data and the internet. So they're not really getting a lot of practice answering questions in written form. So giving them some practice really does help get them used to it. Again, there's sample performance tasks. They've got code, video, and written responses, the scoring commentary. There's the knowledge bank. You can search for CS performance and get some of the samples. This is an important slide because there are some restrictions to what you can do as a teacher. Again, all of this is available on the College Board, but it's really helpful to know this ahead of time. So these are all things that you cannot do during the task. You really can't help them on things like their writing, the creation of their code, debugging, moving things around. It has to be their program. So I always make sure I tell them that ahead of time. I can't help you. What the teachers can do if they're having technical issues, like their computer's not working, or they don't know how to record a video, if they don't know how to turn a code into a PDF, or they don't know how to upload something to the digital portfolio. You can help with that. If they don't understand the instructions, you can clarify that. But you can't help with the actual code or the written responses, the body of that. Now, it says from anyone other than your collaborative partner. They can collaborate with someone else. Now, there are restrictions. They can't just sit down together and write one program. They have to split the code up, write it. They have to the code they submit has to be created by them. So they can each write their components, put them together, and then they have to take notes and say, I did this, my partner did that. And they have to meet all those complexity requirements in their own half of the code. They can't use a practice performance task or practice problems. It has to be new original code. Again, they can't seek answers or be given feedback. They can't collaborate on the video or written responses. Those have to be 100% individual. Once they submit it to the College Board, that's final. They can't get it back and modify it. So these are all in the instructions, but it's good to know this ahead of time. I'm going to keep going just because we're almost done. CodeHS has the CSP hub with a bunch of tools in it, a lot of review material. Throughout the course, these are some of the practice questions. All of the practice quizzes and end of unit quizzes are all modeled after the AP questions. So they're getting experience kind of prepping for it ahead of time. This is what the CSP review course looks like. They've got the preparation has a bunch of practice quizzes, and they have a practice exam inside of it. You can see right here, right? They have a reference sheet that clarifies like the type of coding language or the way the code is going to be structured. They've got hundreds of review questions that are in here. It's really great. My students have said that that's the most helpful thing that they've used to prepare. You've also got an AP Reader question bank, which is even more questions. So you've got tons of material to help prepare them. This just shows you how to access the question bank. These are peer-reviewed AP questions that have been created to just help them with very specific style of questions that are going to be on the test. So just to kind of wrap things up for the AP portion, right? November 15th, registration deadline. Completing all the content by end of March. So then you've got April to get the performance task and the test review. So by Monday, May 8th, they're ready for the test. And again, May 1st, it's a firm deadline. You know, if they don't get it in by then, they didn't get it in, and that's 30% of their grade. So this is just kind of a summary of the other resources: College Board, the Reader's Question Bank, another CodeHS, the Kibbe article, the AP CSP Hub. These all have links in here. So when you look at the slides, you've got access to them. Digital portfolio. This is where they create their account and connect to your class. You'll get class codes from whoever your AP coordinator is. The scoring guidelines, student handouts, these are all resources to help get them ready when you're getting ready to administer it. These are just other, so CodeHS, you know, this isn't necessarily related to CSP, but as a teacher that's now using CodeHS, you've got lots of ways to be involved with CodeHS. You can become a certified educator. That's something I did with CodeHS, and it puts you in contact with other teachers throughout the country, or even world, I think, that are using CodeHS. Teacher-led workshops, that's what we're doing right now. They've got a Slack community to help network, social media, Facebook. They also have micro credentials, which help, they kind of show your proficiency. They have Python and JavaScript and other languages. These are some more upcoming CodeHS workshops. They're constantly doing this by other, teacher trainers such as myself. You can find ones that are related to wherever you're at, whether it's AP CSP or just teaching strategies. So you can click on this link and it'll take you to all the upcoming webinars. And, I know, again, I apologize for going a little bit later, but there's a short survey. If you click on this link, I think Lori's posting them in the chat, but this really gives us valuable information. It gives CodeHS a lot. It also gives teacher trainers like myself a lot of helpful info. Any feedback, whether positive or negative, it helps. So if you're able to spare a couple minutes to fill this out, we all really appreciate it. And finally, just thank you for attending. I know it's summertime. Your time is, it's really valuable. So again, I apologize for going a little over. Sometimes I get going, but it's, we just appreciate it. I love CodeHS. It's, again, I'm not an employee. I truly feel like this. And I know when I started teaching CS, I know how confusing it can be. You've got so many different resources. There's so many different curriculums to use. It can be overwhelming at times. And even once you start using a platform, like CodeHS has so many tools, you're not going to master it in a year. You're not going to learn every single thing. I'm still learning things now, 5-6 years later. So try to focus on the essentials, get comfortable with the curriculums. You'll learn other tools as you go along, but you've got lots of resources here to help you as you go through the year and continue on with other years. So you can always reach out and find other things on the website. So again, thank you guys so much for attending. I want to wish you the best of luck throughout the school year, and attend more of these sessions if you find one that's helpful.
Hey, Sean, thank you so much. This was awesome. The chat was buzzing the whole time. I was
Awesome.
having conversations as well. This was an amazing amount of resources and so valuable to come from a teacher in the field right now. So I wanted to mention just a couple of things. Definitely register for more upcoming workshops. If you can't attend them, we'll send you the resources. And just keep watching that free PD page, because we have lots of plans to keep doing, especially these AP-CSP type workshops. We'll do AP-CSA if you're an AP teacher in that subject as well. But I think this is something that it's just nice to have that connection and that support as you go throughout your year. So keep an eye on that page, and you'll get those notifications from us as well when those are posted. So thank you so much. And Sean, this was awesome. Thank you again. Thank you all. I want to say the same thing as Sean did. You have a lot of choices in the ways you spend your time, especially in the summer, and you chose to spend your time with us. So thank you. We appreciate that. I will be sending out the follow-up email. It'll probably be tomorrow morning before it comes out, but keep an eye out for that. And thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I can't wait to see you at another workshop. See y'all soon.
Thank you guys again. Have a great rest of the summer.